Podcast presents Django the Bastard. Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from Cultsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
I'm pretty good on a somewhat sweltering day as we're sitting here in a closed-off room, no ventilation, bringing you an episode on Django the Bastard. You all asked for it. Everybody wanted... Just kidding. No one wanted Django the Bastard. We did put a poll out. I put a poll out on Twitter because I was wondering what everybody wanted us to do. Did they want us to do Django the Bastard, or did they want us to do Black Shampoo? Because we had said we were going to do one of the two. We wanted to do some sort of spaghetti western or a blaxploitation film, and I put the poll out. And we had a whole lot of, not that many. We didn't have that many votes. But the votes, to be fair.
Way to talk it up. You're just supposed to say, you know.
We had some votes.
We had voting, and the voting came in.
We had some votes.
And it came in for Django.
Yeah, and it came in for Django the Bastard. That is true. It did come in for Django the Bastard.
Unfortunately for us and them, it was wrong Django film.
Yeah, I mean... So when you hear Django, you're thinking like, okay, I know Django Unchained, right? Django, the original Django. But in Italian land, there were many Django films that really didn't have anything to do with the original Django. And as we'll talk about when we do this episode, this Django doesn't really have much relation to the original Django, who was Franco Nero, and so this one is really just like a blatant copyright ripoff. Like, you know what did really well? Django. So let's use the name Django. And that was pretty much it.
Well, I was asking you, because you know Italian films better than I do. I was asking, I'm like, so what is Italian copyright like? Or are they just like, hey, you know what? If you got like the same first name as the guy who worked on the past one, you can just fucking do it.
Pretty much.
You know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Django was directed by Sergio. My name is Sergio. I want to make a Django film.
Yeah, I don't know that much about Italian copyright. I wouldn't say I know that much about American copyright, but as you can tell, because we just use music willy-nilly on here and get copyright takedowns all the time, but... I don't know that much about Italian copyright, but I'm assuming that, at some point someone was like, you want to make spaghetti western with Django as the name? Or the other thing was somebody had a good lawyer and they were like, yeah, so they used the name Django. What if I made my gunslinger Michael? There's a lot of Michaels out there. So who cares if I use the first name Django?
But it's just a common Italian thing. Like, you know, like one of the big ones, I think it was like Troll 2, had nothing to do with the original Troll. But, it's a well-known franchise. We're just
gonna use the name and get away with it, and I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know why it was acceptable, but it was.
Probably still is.
Just, get away with it.
You want to call your film Suspiria? Go right ahead.
Yeah. So like I said, Django won. Now, I don't know how many fans there are out there of Django the Bastard, specifically, but it is not one of the better-known spaghetti western films of the time. And actually, it came during 1969, which was sort of the tail end of spaghetti western films, like their popularity at the time. So, we had a lot of films in the early to mid-60s that were spaghetti westerns that were fairly popular. And then as you get towards the end of the 60s, that sort of is dying away.
I would say until the mid-70s.
Yeah, I mean, there were some, for sure.
Like Blazing Saddles didn't come out until 72, 73.
Right, but that was on the tail end where it was parodying what had already come. So
I know, but the amount of films that they were pumping out at the time, there's like 100 of them in 68, so it's you could do,
I mean, I think that it was still something where, you had some spaghetti westerns coming out at the time that may have been sort of like a death knell for it, where it was like, you know what, everybody's doing it as a spaghetti western, I'm going to do one too. So random Spanish guy who can stand in as an Italian guy is starring in this spaghetti western. But for the most part, I think that by that point, the better films in the spaghetti western series had been out, and you had those people now that were really just trying to rip off with whatever possible. So this, I mean, and like we said, this isn't really something new for Italian films. Late into the 70s and 80s, it was also very characteristic of Italian films to just try to capture the limelight of what other films were doing. I'm thinking of one of them that's pretty that stands out fairly well is Shocking Dark, which is really a Terminator ripoff, and it even went by the name Terminator 2 at some points. And you have a couple other films. Actually, Severin Films just released one not too long ago, which is called Robo War. That is a direct ripoff of Predator. And so you had this going on all the time, and I think Django the Bastard is one of those films that it sits very well in that, like, they found a niche that had been doing really well, and so they said, you know what, we're just going to make one like it. And a lot of people like to, if you look up some critical analysis of Django the Bastard, which, I mean, we'll talk about this a little later, but can you really analyze Django the Bastard that well? But anyway, if you look at some critical analysis of it, a lot of people will say that, yes, it sort of did rip off the Man with No Name series, because our main character, Anthony Steffen, is really, really trying hard to be Clint Eastwood. Very, very hard. Just in terms of the design of his character and the way that he delivers lines.
I would say him and Franco.
Yeah, it's sort of a combination of both. But not only that, but you also have just a very, very, very generic spaghetti western film. It's a revenge film, and first and foremost, and that's really it throughout the entire movie. It's the entire plot is just this revenge film that bears a striking resemblance to the Man with No Name films. Even to the point where you have a sort of different plot device, but in Django the Bastard, Django is going around buying crosses to put down in, like, the middle of town to say, like, you're next. You know, you're on my list and I'm coming for you, and here's your date of death, basically. And that's sort of like the idea behind buying coffins for people and getting them prepared for burial. So
it's also a thing from the original Django.
True, yeah.
The coffin thing.
Yeah.
But every time I think of that, I mean, in full disclosure, neither of us have seen a Django film. I've only seen Tarantino's Django Unchained.
Mm.
But every time I think of the whole coffin thing, I just think of Trigun.
Sure. Yeah. And well, I mean, obviously those again were taken from spaghetti western films. Trigun is very influenced by spaghetti western movies.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's all because
yeah, that's
where I'm familiar with that whole gimmick from.
Yeah.
You know, like dragging coffins around. You know, so it's like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing too is that when you read critical analysis, you'll find that a lot of people like to cite Django the Bastard as being a precursor to the supernatural element that comes up in some of the later spaghetti western movies. And they actually deem this movie a Gothic spaghetti western, which is that's what drew my attention, really, is the term Gothic spaghetti western. Because I'm not really familiar with a lot of the supernatural elements to spaghetti westerns. I've never really seen one. I know that there are a few, and one of them would be Clint Eastwood's film, High Plains Drifter, but at the same time, they're just not really that familiar to me. And terming this Gothic was something that stuck out to me as a horror fan, because I was wondering what they could do with a spaghetti western to make it a Gothic style film.
High Plains Drifter came out after this too.
It did, yes. So Django the Bastard is often cited as being an inspiration to High Plains Drifter, which a lot of people do disagree with too. But so back to my Gothic point, though, you know, Gothic is an atmospheric thing. It's you know, you have moody sets. You have like a lot of times you have like this very big mansion style home that is draped in darkness and foggy, and so you have that that was what stuck out to me with Gothic nature, is that you're going to have this mood and atmosphere throughout Django the Bastard that would elicit the Gothic element.
Makes me think of House on Haunted Hill.
Sure, yeah, a very Gothic element, yeah.
This film is not that.
No. And that was what was really surprising when watching it, because I've seen some terms bandied around, spooky being one of them, and I would certainly not call Django the Bastard spooky. I might throw in goofy. Goofy might be a good name for it.
If anything, like I said, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, the set on here is not Gothic at all.
No, I don't.
It looks like if they rented the Little House on the Prairie set, you know.
Yeah, I don't know where the term Gothic came from in this, but I really don't get that feeling. Even though there are those moments where there's like fog here and there distributed, and you have Django flitting around and being sort of like there and then disappearing like Batman or something like that.
What they should have done is have him, because just like, I'm a ghost, boogity boogity,
yeah.
like, have like gliding around.
Well, in some of those instances though, where he is like Scooby Dooing it and just like hanging out in corridors, is pretty funny, because you see him sometimes like there's one scene where he's hiding underneath a wagon. And then it's very telegraphed that like this guy's going to check under the wagon. So you know when the camera pans back that he's going to be gone from underneath the wagon. So he's gone from underneath the wagon. Then all of a sudden he shows up in like a barn corridor. And people walk past and he's kind of like stuck next to the wall. It's kind of funny in a way. I wouldn't say it's spooky or scary, but it's funny in a way, because like sometimes they'll show Django as being this very supernatural guy, this element. He's there and then he disappears. He's totally gone. But by the end of the film, we find out, yeah, he's just a regular dude who's pretty good at hiding sometimes. And
I don't think it's that. I think it's just his enemies are idiots.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But like, it's just funny because the film takes a shift towards the end where now we're not seeing Django as like this immune ghostly element. We're seeing him for the human that he is, and he's not doing a very good job at the end of the film, like trying to fight off 50 different men in town. So I did think that was pretty interesting to see, like the change that goes through Django the Bastard as you get closer to the end of the film, where it almost seems like they were struggling to figure out, like, how can we make Django in this scenario feel like he is at odds with 50 men, even though throughout the entire film we've made him seem invincible. So there was like that issue of trying to figure out, like, can we get the audience to feel some concern for Django when it's really not been an issue throughout the movie? Should we take a quick break? We actually have some beer to talk about on this show.
The first time in 5 episodes.
You know what? It's
you thought we were getting rid of that?
No, we've just been cheap and haven't been buying any beer. And that's the other thing I wanted to plug. If you would like to send us like 2 beers or something like that, like of your choice, like a special brew that we don't have access to, that you want to hear plugged on the show, we'd certainly appreciate that. You can write to us at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com and let us know, and we'll give you our address and you can send it. I'm actually moving, so I might give you the new address. You can be my first package at the new house. So, that's an option. I was just saying. And also, I probably should throw out there, for legal reasons, we don't condone shipping alcohol in the United States. I think it's illegal. But if you do it, package it well. So, it's just a disclaimer. We can't.
It's legal. You just need permits.
Right, yeah. I can't stop you from doing whatever you want to do. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm saying you could do it. And if you do it, please package it correctly, so it's not breakable or anything like that, because that's just a sad waste all around. I did get a new beer yesterday. I was in the mood for getting something new, and I'll be honest with you, I do like going to the bar and stuff and getting new things, but when it comes to buying things in the store, I have been routinely disappointed by what's available to us right now. We just don't have a big selection in the store.
No, you're right. That's why I go to, like, when we go out, that's why I'm like, oh, get that. Something new. Different.
You get something new.
Now when I go to the store, it's like I'll have either Miller Lite or like whatever Jenny's got.
It's just, small town living, you don't get a big selection of stuff to try out. So,
or you do, and you just ran through it all.
Or you do, and it's like fucking $18 a 4-pack. Just on the other side of, no, fuck that. You know?
You don't want to give Ballast Point your money for,
Not anymore.
$23 for a 6-pack?
Do a $6 draft, but I won't do a ridiculous...
They gotta sell it for that price, because San Diego's just, as you said, so expensive. So
It is true. It is true.
Gotta mark it up.
So I did get a new pack, though, and it was a 6-pack from Dogfish Head. And
a brand I like, a brand I never buy.
It's again, it's an expensive style for around here. I do like most of Dogfish Head's beers that I've had, and I wanted to try this one because I am curious about the new trend of putting out low calorie beers. I think it's a good idea. The problem is that every single low calorie beer ends up being a session beer because you can't have a high alcohol content in a low calorie beer. It just doesn't work that way, people. It's the sugars. You just can't do it.
Science.
If they could do it, that would be great.
Well, I just don't understand why it's always got to be a session IPA.
True. I mean,
why not?
We have seen others do low-calorie beers, like Saranac did their Belgian white, which is kind of nice. They went a different style. But, yeah, almost everybody now, if they're doing a session, they're doing an IPA, and I think it's because of the ease of making it into a lower alcohol percentage.
Well, why not just, try your hand at a light lager?
That is true, too.
That'd be something, why
not? A nice, light...
See, hey, we can make a light lager, but make it actually taste like something.
Yeah.
Compared to Bud Light.
That is true. They should.
I think it's mainly because, I'm not the biggest, outside Miller Lite, I'm not that big of a light lager fan, but I would like to see, a craft beer, at least, brewer, just try it, at least.
I'd love to see them, everybody coming out with, a low-calorie cerveza.
Because,
awesome.
we both like a lot, Founders Solid Gold.
Yeah.
And that's their take at, a traditional, just, pills,
Miami Pilsner.
Yeah. And it's, delightful. So I don't think there's anything stopping them from doing it, just except, the connotation, the negative connotation that would come with it. Because we're craft brewers. Can't do that. I'm not saying it's be, the ideal beer, but I just, again, because I'm sick and tired of IPAs. Mm-hmm. Bandying about, the one you got now, it's they just kind of gussied it up a little bit, And it's you're not even trying. You're just, taking random shit in your brewery. You're what can we fucking put in it? And we got some rutabagas lying around. Let's fucking put them in there. See how that turns out.
I am a fan of IPAs, though. I just seek out all the new ones.
No, but I like them, and I'm willing to try them. But like you said, I want to do that at a bar. I haven't had that NIPA yet. Mm-hmm. Billion different NIPAs.
Yeah.
But when it comes to buying them, I have no interest. I'm I don't need to try my 30th NIPA.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not something that you go out of your way to grab at the store and try to, get a whole pack of them.
Because if you go to a bar, you drink 2-3 beers, or we're out to eat or something.
Yep.
They have 20 different NIPAs. You take 3 that you haven't had, bang, bang, and you knock them out right there.
Yep.
You can go, good, they're all good. I wouldn't buy them though, but
Well, the one that we have on the show today is Dogfish Head's Slightly Mighty Low Cal IPA. So that is a IPA that clocks in about 4%, 95 calories, 3.6 carbs. And I guess they've used what they call a mighty aromatic hop. So the aromatic hop gives the hop flavor while also maintaining that lightness to it. And they've added monk fruit here as a monk fruit extract, I think it is, to balance those hop flavors out with a little bit of a fruity tart taste to it.
See? Whatever they had lying around.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've never had monk fruit on its own. I don't know what it would taste like myself.
Well,
but
who does that?
I don't know.
Outside of the people who work in QC at my DC, whose sole job is just to cut fruits and vegetables up and taste them and eat them.
I've never seen a monk fruit in real life. It's how people say I guess somebody somewhere in San Francisco is you've never seen a monk fruit. It's how people in cities are I've never seen a cow. Well, we've never seen a monk fruit because we don't live
Actually-
in Richie Rich.
Actually, at the DC the other day, I saw fruit. It's like called a rutabarb or something. They look like giant red sea urchins.
Oh, so they're like a cross between a rutabaga and rhubarb or something like that?
I don't know, but it looked. I don't know how you actually pronounce it. The one guy that that I work in QA with that saw it, he's like, I found this. It's called like a rutabarb or rutabaga something. And I went and took a look at it with him, and he's like, yeah, don't they look like sea urchins? And I'm like, it does. They look like giant red sea urchins.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Apparently, you can get them at our Walmart, which I found funny because I made my manager laugh. Because I was like, I don't think we'd have that at our Walmart. The most exotic thing they get there is bananas.
Apparently they got it.
Yeah. Moving on up.
So the Locale IPA, I think it's pretty good. It's a very light IPA, so you're not getting a huge hop profile from it.
Not getting a big monk fruit flavor from it either.
I do get the monk fruit. I get it towards the end of the palate when you are sort of on the swallow, and you've gotten the hop profile, but then you also get a slight cut of tartness to it that stands out at the end. So I enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. With that said, and I think this happens with most of the low-calorie beers. It's nothing amazing. It's not something that you're like going to go out of your way to get time and again. But as a low-calorie beer, if you're looking to have something what everybody likes to term for IPAs now, crushable. If you want something crushable, this is a good beer for you to try. Like I said, it's not going to wow you. You're not going to go out of your mind to be like, the flavors of this one. But it's pretty good. I liked it. I think the hop flavor in it is good and pretty well balanced. I think you said you thought it was a little bit on the watery side.
I found it to be very underwhelming. It's a pretty watery session IPA. I didn't taste any fruitiness to it. Very slight hop character to it. Very slight.
We all know that
Like
Martin's
just-
palate is not that great. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, it was like barely hoppy, just like enough to like kind of tickle your tongue a little bit, but not enough. And I just thought it was overwhelmingly like a watery, unflavorful beer. I would much rather drink like a Harpoon Rec League. That's at least like a session pale ale. That's hoppier than this.
Yeah,
And lower on the ABV too. So
I liked it.
Unimpressed.
I thought it was pretty good. Martin did not. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I'd rather have like a blue light then, I guess.
You know what? Tried a new one though. Got a new one under our belt.
Slowly but surely, just building that untapped catalog.
That's right. Like I said, send us some stuff if you got it. We can send you something in return. We don't have that much good stuff around here. But if you want some browns, you want some druthers, artisanal brew works, we can get it for you. This is pretty much what we're limited to around here. So
Stump City.
yeah, Stump
Sack
City,
and Dog
nice
is gonna be
local
opening up?
craft. When's that opening up? Have they said yet?
No, it still says coming soon.
Yeah, I remember.
But they do have it at Project 29.
They have a beer at Project 29?
Yes.
Huh.
I saw on like the Untapped notifications. Great Sack and Dog.
Huh.
I think they're the one.
So they're brewing it, but just not able to have an actual location yet.
Well, I think it's
Interesting.
gonna be that little shack that they got.
Oh yeah, it is, but it's just like clearly not ready. They said it was going to be like August to September, and it is way far from that. I would say it doesn't look anywhere near
Well,
ready.
we'll have to like maybe go on Friday and check it out.
Yeah,
At Project 29.
yeah, we'll have to try it.
Maybe once
I
they
didn't
open
know
up,
they had
we can, maybe once they open up, we'll be like, hey, we'll do a podcast episode there.
There you go.
Draw some people and
Yeah,
do the same thing at Stump. Like, hey, let's go.
you'd be like, your listener base is people from Gloversville. Probably not. All right.
Little known fact: the Glove City's big Jello fans.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Actually, though, Schenectady is fairly big cult film people. They routinely now have a film showing each Thursday night, I think.
Well, because it's the gussied up version of Troy.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And I've always meant to get there, but I haven't been able to get there on a Thursday night.
I did want to go out there to Proctor's when the Book of Mormon was playing. Didn't get to. Oh well.
All right, so Django el Bastardo, also known as the Stranger's Gunman.
Which name's better?
Between Django the Bastard and the Stranger's Gunman?
Django the Bastard.
Well, you know what? If you I'm sorry. I said gunman, but it's the Stranger's Gundown. That makes way more sense. I was like, gunman doesn't really make much sense. The Stranger's Gundown. So I think it was now again you get into the nuance of Italian cinema, where it had 7 names and it was released under each name in a different region of Italy, and then it went to the United States and they renamed it again. Honestly, I don't know at this point what the real name of it is. I'm assuming Django il Bastardo was the Italian name, and now they've adopted that for this release from Synapse Films.
Well, because being the prudes that America is, we can't have a film with the name Bastard in it.
Yeah. But I would assume...
You want all the rape and violence? Sure, we'll have that, but cussing... Sex, no.
I do think that the film was then released as The Stranger's Gundown elsewhere, and
it's such a bland name.
It is a bland name, yeah.
I can see why they went with Django the Bastard. They should just call it the Bastard.
It's kind of funny because Django's not really the bastard in this movie.
I don't know. They're all bastards.
They're all bastards. That's true.
Except Brett.
Brett with the little kid's hat.
Little Kurt Angle from the WWE back when him and Stone Cold were heels together in their cowboy hats. He's got the little Kurt Angle cowboy hat on. It's magical.
Well, you know what? Sometimes when you're in a shootout, you don't want to be hindered by the hat falling over your eyes.
Well, why does he even bother having the little chin strap on his hat?
I don't.
It's so small.
So small, just sticks right to the head anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about the chin strap. I was just thinking, economically, it's a little bit easier to have it sit on the back of your head, so you don't have to almost like a yarmulke, so you don't have to worry about it falling into your face when you're trying to pull your gun out with a really exaggerated. The
whole point of those hats, though, in the West, is to keep the sun out.
That's true too.
Does nothing for him.
Right? How's he going to keep the sun out? He didn't have sunglasses either. Yeah. He was pretty tan, too. Probably doesn't have sunblock either.
Very tan.
How many of these spaghetti western actors ended up getting skin cancer at some point? Anthony Steffen is, surprisingly tan, too. I know that's in their blood. That's their genetics to be tan. But at the same time, I was just, left astounded. Man.
Do you think they told him, to run out there, with, oil on?
just get a nice bake on,
nice and
But that's true of every single spaghetti western, because they've been out in the fucking desert sun shooting in Arizona, or
no, they don't go to Arizona.
No, I'm just kidding. But they've been out there and they've been shooting in the sun, and I can imagine at a certain point just getting baked.
You'd think with where they shoot out in Spain, where those plateaus and whatnot are,
yeah,
they would just have a set already built, and they just use it for every fucking film.
Well, Django the Bastard's set does look a lot like other sets from the time. It looks very, very similar.
Yeah, but they just painted it ridiculous pastel colors.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one.
They were the 70s before the 70s.
One thing about Django the Bastard that does stand out is that it does have a different color scheme. Some guys are wearing pink undershirts. It's not really common. It's just a different color scheme and style than most spaghetti western movies are. No one's eating with wooden bowls and forks.
But it does seem like a very Italian thing, though.
Yeah.
We gotta make it bright and pretty. Sergio Leone did it for historical accuracy. He actually, this is why they wore dusters and this is what they looked like, and everything, detailed.
You think this one was just more so for how it looks cool? Looks nice.
Well, I don't think they had a fucking budget, so they didn't give a shit because they look like it's clearly the 60s.
Yeah.
With everyone's page boy haircuts and all that. They just slapped a couple of things on, all their gun belts look like they were taken out of Toys R Us.
One thing I do like is Django's poncho. I love ponchos.
Even his boots looks incredibly cheap. They look generic. I got my galoshes on, my nice slicker boots.
So that's actually a character trait though, because Django doesn't care about money. So maybe they were just like, you know what? Django doesn't care about money, so he's going to have all cheap shit. He stole it off of everybody. He stole it off dead people and took it for himself, and he doesn't care about any money, so he doesn't buy anything.
Well, I mean, they look like rubber boots, and that wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah. He didn't have that.
They didn't know how to vulcanize rubber yet.
All right, so Django the Bastard, definitely, so it takes place during the it's actually after the Civil War.
1881.
Yeah, it takes place after the Civil War.
They got their numbers a little mixed up, though, because supposed to be the reason for revenge is 13 years ago when his Confederate, platoon was betrayed. They would put the year at 1868. War was over for 3 years.
Yeah, I don't...
Even out in the West, the fighting was basically stopped by then.
Well, there's a couple things that are weird about the timeline. You mentioned the fighting would probably have been over if that was actually the case 13 years ago. But also, why did it take Django 13 years to fucking find the rest of his leaders of his Confederate troop and actually murder them? Because he does it in the span of a couple days in Django the Bastard.
And not only that, from what we hear from the one woman in the film, she's so remarkable I can't remember her name.
They only say it like 2 times because
it's like
she's called Tramp.
Whore.
Yeah. No, I think her name is Alita.
Yeah. Well, Alita, when she's getting in a fight with the one Murdoch.
Yep.
She was like, he was saying how she's a gold digger, and how he's one of the wealthiest families in all not the county. You would think like they'd stick them all like in the county. No, he says country. But you mean to tell me when the wealthiest men in all the country and from one of the best families in all the country, it took Django 13 years to track down?
Yeah.
And, out in the desert? I don't know about that. It seems a little far-fetched. He must be a terrible,
Yeah, the timeline is weird. Like, what was Django... what was Django doing the entire time that he... Between the end of the war... And then finding these guys in Django the Bastard.
Well, he was going to spooky squad.
Yeah, there should be another Django the Bastard sequel where it just shows him going to like a master of like hiding and just learning the moves, like a kung fu movie.
He goes to go see. Yeah, make it like a kung fu movie, but he goes to see like Solid Snake, and he just like most effective way to hide. Cardboard box. Like, oh, yes, very good, very... Wait, that's not around yet. You'll know. You'll be able to find one.
Yeah. So, but anyway, even if you can get past the whole, it took him 13 years to find these people. He's back. He's tracking down basically the Murdochs, who are now a band of bandits. Who are just like sort of taking over towns and they're taking over Desert City.
I was gonna say I don't know. I don't know what are. I don't think they're bandits because they hire bandits.
I have no idea.
I think they're just like just like we run roughshod.
Yeah, a roving band of guys that like to roll into town. So they go to Desert City, which is like the most generic name for a Western village, and you just name it something like Armadillo instead. But they go to Desert City and they kind of...
Quite the city, too.
Yeah. They basically kick everybody out of the city.
That was nice of them.
I mean, it was, because most of the time in spaghetti westerns, the villagers are terrified, hiding in their houses because there's a fucking showdown in the middle of the road. Well, you know what? They're mitigating that by saying, you know what? There's going to be a showdown, so get the fuck out of the town. And they do act rough about it, but you would think like the villagers would come back later on and they'd be like, thank God they asked us to leave because everybody's dead. Literally everyone is dead.
You forgot the whole part, though, in the beginning where we had this intriguing fucking cattle story that goes absolutely fucking nowhere about her. Well, she owns a herd of cattle, and the husband's dead, and we're gonna take the money, and we're gonna sell, and things are stuff.
Yeah, a widow has a cattle herd, and they take her. They finally get her to sell it and stuff like that.
I don't
know what it's. That whole storyline, yeah, it really goes nowhere, and it really just sets up the fact that the Murdochs are in town. It doesn't really do much.
Well,
of
they kill husbands and then sell the livestock. That's how they rustle. They're like, fuck, and then if fuck trying to steal the cow, we'll just kill the husband.
But I thought Rod Murdoch was like the richest guy in the country. Why does he need to do this then?
For fun.
Actually, I think it's his brother, Luke Murdoch, who is kind of like the crazy Joker guy of the movie.
He does make some Jack Nicholson Joker.
He has a really, really disconcerting grin. I will say that.
He's got a disconcerting voice too, because it does not match up.
Oh, the dub, yeah. The dub for him in particular is really bad.
I just have a hard time, because I know it's hard to find a good dub of these films.
Yeah.
It's not often, but there are some good, dubs.
Yeah.
But I just find it hard to believe, like, people were, like, in studio directing actors to, like, portray this voice, like, all right, we're gonna dub this over, and they're hearing this, like, ha, 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 like, like, doesn't sync up or match at all, like, how the character looks, and they're like...
Perfect. Good take.
They're just giving the warm side of the door grin.
Good take. Good take.
Just like, yes. Same thing with, like, the sound effects. When you're like, oh, he's walking on a nice stone church. Oh, we're gonna make it sound like he's walking on tile.
Yeah. Well, you know what though?
That'll do. That'll do.
If I'm being honest, I would assume that they weren't even like, how now when you do voice acting, you're watching the character on the screen, like what their reaction is, or they're even modeling it after how you deliver your line. I don't think that was the case at this time. I don't think they saw the scene at all. They just gave them the script, said read this line, and that was it. So they did the best they could with the line they were given.
I'm sure you're absolutely right, but it just like kind of baffles the mind. Like
someone was just like, you know what, let's cut it.
That's perfect. Gold. That's the take right there.
Yeah.
Because his voice, it's distracting.
It is distracting.
Like usually, I don't like the lip syncing and all that. That doesn't bother me. I'm so used to it by now, but like when you hear voices that don't like, that's not something that would.
His is definitely the worst in this movie. That just stands out as like just not even being close to what was on screen. The other interesting thing is that IMDb lists his name as Hugh or Jack depending on the film that you watch, but in our dub was clearly Luke, which is weird. I don't know where that came from. But it was clearly Luke in this one.
On the porn version, it's humor.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that whole aspect of the film, the beginning of the movie, is a huge drag on the story. For one thing, this movie comes in at just about an hour and 40 minutes around there, and
the definition of a slog.
Yeah,
usually, like with long, films that are long in the tooth, and you're just kind of like, come on, I'll like check my phone and kind of start tapping my foot like I'm Sonic, and you haven't moved me in like a minute in the game. And Ryan can attest to this. I was literally like, how much fucking longer do we have? This is tedious.
Yeah,
this is like just beyond pedantic, just sitting around watching this.
I will say that the beginning of the movie is really where the worst of it occurs, when they're doing the setup. And then once you get into the middle of the movie, it's not so bad, especially as Django's actually taking action and doing some of his ridiculous takedowns, like throwing a cigarette that is apparently also dynamite into a fire.
Apparently someone saw a James Bond film, like right before this. They saw like, you only live twice, and they're like, that's a good idea. We'll have something fucking explode.
And I think, too, the whole... When there's actually action on screen, there is the other element of this movie, which is that it's very cheesy and that you can laugh at it. Because, like I was talking about, when he throws the dynamite in to the fire, it explodes as he's walking away. And then people are going out to try to find this guy that just did this. And then he appears behind them, sitting...
Well, the whole best part of that whole, like, him throwing this cigar dynamite thing, he sits down at the campfire with these, like, 10 bounty guys who are looking for him, and they're like, isn't that right, stranger? And he's like, that's right. And you're like, all having a good time, sitting there laughing, and then he just throws a cigar and walks away. Like, no one was like, oh, that was the stranger, not us.
Yeah, it's hilarious because everybody just kind of welcomes him into this group. He's like some guy no one knows, and they're looking for a guy that no one knows who's killing people, and they don't suspect a thing.
And that's also like a Scooby-Doo moment, too, because when he throws the cigar, none of them are killed. They're all just like, "Ah!"
Well, dynamite in this movie doesn't kill. It just explodes and it's a nuisance. Like, oh shit, that could have been me. But if you're like,
could have done something.
If you're like 2 feet away from it, like you're good. You're clear. That's why they can play hot potato dynamite. Because even if it lands like right next to you and it explodes, you're fine.
Yeah, it was a wood stick too, like for that thing. So no, there's no shrapnel getting blasted into that guy's head or anything. No, everyone's fine. It was just good old classic Western fun. Just got nothing better to do out there besides smoke tobacco, drink bourbon, play poker, and throw dynamite around. Good time.
I think the other problem with Django the Bastard is that the subplots to this movie really don't make any sense. So we talked about the one with the cattle a little bit, but there's another subplot with Alita, who is sort of like she's the wife of Luke, who doesn't really want to be married to him, but she's getting paid for it, basically. And so she is then left with the other brothers, Murdoch's men, who are basically guarding her and keeping her hostage, that Django saves her from. And then she goes back to them. And there's really, like, besides the fact that Django and her are setting up some sort of deal, there's no meaning or rhyme or reason to why she goes back, why she was left with these guys. Nothing really makes sense about it. And the movie just kind of plays it off like, yeah, this is a normal thing that normal people do. They're left as hostages and then they just go back to them. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, the subplots don't really go anywhere. The main plot, though, of Django the Bastard, really, it doesn't have a lot going for it either. It's literally just a revenge flick. And in the middle of the film, it does a flashback sequence where Django picks up a bottle of whiskey and he notices the label on it. It says Navy on it.
Navy cut.
Yeah, Navy cut. And we
get a flashback of him as a Confederate soldier.
Yeah.
Which is funny because from what I read in the original Django, he's a Union soldier.
Yeah. And it's also funny too because we're on the total wrong side of the war in this one. Django, our hero, is a Confederate. Well,
that's one of the things I love because that's a common trope in a lot of the revenge spaghetti western films. Is like it's during the Civil War or they're after, and they were a member of the war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there was just all this fighting going on down in the New Mexico territory. While I mean, yes, I know there was fighting out there, but it wasn't this great big hullabaloo. It wasn't like the siege of Vicksburg, right? For God's sakes.
The one thing that I like about this movie too is that Murdoch and his other majors that are leading his troop, they are traitors. So they are.
You mean heroes?
Yeah, well, I guess they would be heroes in our sense. Yes, they actually defect to the Union.
I don't think they defect. I
don't know what they do.
They don't give a reason why they did it.
Yeah, they don't really. They just wanted whiskey.
They just betrayed their unit and their,
They wanted whiskey.
So I don't again, from what we see from this movie, I don't think it's for a noble cause. It's like, you're right, the Negro needs to be free.
Right, it wasn't a noble cause. So I don't think we're supposed to get that idea.
Or maybe it was like they realized it's 1868. War's been over for 3 years.
Yeah, why are we still fighting?
Fuck this, we're going home.
Yeah.
Boys, we're down here. You go do what you gotta do.
It doesn't really give a reason for why they do it. It literally, it is just that scene of that flashback. There's no, morals, or it's not, sporadically given to you throughout the film. It's really one scene. It happens more towards the end of or actually more towards the middle of the film than you would expect, because that means that there's not a lot. The film doesn't need to spend any more time on this revenge plot, because normally in a spaghetti western, the revenge plot's kind of doled out through some sort of flashbacks.
It's constantly flashback too.
Right. This is like a very, very, very minimal flashback sequence that occurs, and it just explains everything to you. Yep, they went to the Union, then they ordered basically they all massacred the Confederate troops, supposedly including Django, and so everybody thinks he's come back as a ghost. He's a ghost Django.
I didn't think he was a ghost because of that. I don't think he realized who the fuck Django was.
Some of them did, though. They said, "Oh, he's a ghost."
No, I know, because
Like
it was
at the
hard.
beginning of the film,
I think
yeah.
because it was hard for them to kill him. He was a ghost. I don't think it had anything to do with that, because I don't think Murdoch had a fucking, and his other officers had a fucking clue of.
Well, the first guy that he kills does say you're supposed to be dead.
Yeah, but
So he does know who it is.
he does, but I don't think Murdoch does. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's just like, ugh, and then afterwards, once Django explains to him, he's like, yeah, I should have left you dead. Fuck you. You know? But it's very much, this film, if maybe it was at like 75 minutes, would have been probably like a brisk, enjoyable, quick, enjoyable revenge.
Yeah, because when you have the actual action sequences put in there, it's not that bad. It's
all the film needed to do, instead of having like that whole intro, fucking cow bullshit, and all like sub-story and subplot and all that, just have, after he kills the first guy, you get over the gimmick of, he carries around crosses and fucking plants them in the middle of the town and kills them right in front of the cross. After that happens, just move on right to Murdoch.
Yeah.
And doing that, and then like what happens from there would have been a lot more of an enjoyable story.
Yeah, I think it gets too bogged down in its own storyline. And then other than that, though, the storyline is really not that interesting. So there's not really too much to focus on. And the other thing is that the director here, Sergio Garoni, I guess. Sergio Garoni.
Baloney.
The directing in this is like way too
Italian?
yeah, I guess you could say that, but it's just prolonged so much. So a lot of scenes just go on for way too long.
Well, that dynamite hot potato scene
Oh yeah,
was like 7 minutes of like
watching two guys throw around some dynamite.
with the longest views dynamite
Yeah.
ever, just like bloop,
Yeah.
bloop, bloop.
The other things that like really stand out are like when Alita's gathering money up and stuff like that. Just those scenes just go on for so long. They could have been cut way down, and you don't need all of that extraneous just watching them do things. It's way too long. The other thing that stands out is the last like 45-minute chase sequence of Django as he's hiding around in barns and
Takes fucking eons. Didn't need that. You didn't need to have like, oh, he's human, and it's them then running around searching,
that actually becomes excruciating. Like you start to get to the point where you're like, I wish this would just end. And at a certain point, I was at the thought process of like, I don't know if this is going to end anytime soon.
So, one of the things I would kind of compare it to, but what I'm going to compare it to is much better done, and I mean a lot better done, is the chase sequence in the Bond film On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which actually came out the same year, 1969. The scene where George Lazenby, after he escapes on skis from Blofeld's retreat, and then is being chased by Blofeld's henchmen throughout all of Peace Gloria in Switzerland, is like a tense 15-minute scene of him getting chased. But what makes it tense is because up until that point in the Bond franchise, we've never seen James Bond be vulnerable and potentially, threatened. Mm-hmm. And it's actually the way the scene's shot and how they do it. It makes it tense, and it makes you like feel gripped in what's going on in that moment. Mm-hmm. Here, Django is just the guy that runs around, guns blazing, blowing everyone away, and now we're supposed to feel like, oh, he's vulnerable because Luke, was able to graze a bullet from him, and he's just kind of pissing around, like hiding in stupid spots, and then we get like a gun showdown between like the bandits and Murdoch's crew who are hired, but they're like, fuck this, we want to leave. There's no tension. There's nothing to it.
No.
So
there's really no tension because most of the time Django's not in any danger. He's just literally hiding in a barn.
Yeah.
He's like hiding in some hay, and that's it. And that's like, so then you're watching troops assemble in various areas, and that's really it. So it just goes on and on and on, and you're like, come on, just get it over with already. To the point where you think like there's not going to really be a conclusion. Because there's like 40 soldiers still alive, and Django's still holding his wounded arm as though he just got shot near the heart. It just doesn't seem like a resolution is coming. So it
has a nice, very
does.
stereotypical cut above his eye too. For no reason. He's just, bleeding from above his eye.
The other scene that really stands out is excruciating, and it's not. I mean, it's kind of. I guess it works in the scene's favor, but it seems like it was actually unintentional. It was when Django's being hanged by Luke when he's pulling him up by a rope, and that scene of him hanging is just really long as well. And so that actually kind of works to its advantage because you're watching Django slowly being suffocated. And so you're like, oh yeah, this is excruciating because it's excruciating for Django. But I don't think it was the actual intentional reason why they did that.
Well, and it took them 4 minutes to realize, oh, a knife in my boot.
The other thing that I like too about that scene is that Luke seems to have had no other game plan besides, I'm going to hang this guy and hold on to him until he chokes to death. Because when he sees the knife, there's moments for him to react, and he's just like, no, no, they can't be. It's like, you can like drop the rope and just go punch him in the face or something.
Well, the way he was like apparently on top of that like church like
steeple thing, yeah. He's got like a.
How the fuck did he get up there for one?
I don't know.
Is he like a little monkey, just like
they're like steeple rafters.
And not only that, he falls. It's like a 10-foot drop, and he falls like up. He's dead.
He falls to his death. Yeah,
just. Not like, I hurt. I sprained my ankle, on the fall. No, dead.
It's a total waste of Luke as an antagonist because he's actually, I think the actor portraying Luke does a pretty good job of making him seem very manic. So it's just unfortunate that like he dies by falling off of a.
I think it's a cool idea of like having him trying to hang him. I think it's a cool idea. I think it's just absolutely dreadfully executed.
Yeah,
no pun intended.
I agree. And we didn't talk about the music in this movie either.
Scattershot.
No Ennio Morricone. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Like, all good spaghetti westerns, totally scattershot with, like, it's got the most, like, stereotypical woman theme. We only have one woman in here, so anytime woman's on screen, gotta have her woman theme with her soft focus lens. Gentle guitar strumming.
It is a very it actually is kind of interesting how that occurs most of the time because like all of a sudden you'll just have the Alita on screen and the music just tonally shifts.
Straight.
It's like, oh yeah, we got the woman on here. Get a different theme. But then there's also the really like all over the place percussion elements to the main theme.
Brass just thrown in or whatever.
Yeah, that's like towards the end of the film during the showdown. You got the brass element. Like, there's a great amount of sound effects too that are like cartoonish sound effects, especially towards the beginning of the film. There's even like a slide whistle that's like whoop, whoop.
Well, that's why I was laughing when you said, like, hey, a lot of people think it's like start like spaghetti western gothic horror. I'm like, yes, nothing says gothic horror like a pan flute sting that this film likes to have. Like,
there's a lot of like bongo type
xylophones, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad score. I wouldn't say it's a bad score. It's pretty reminiscent of other spaghetti westerns not done by Ennio Morricone. And even then, Ennio Morricone did phone it in a couple times, as in some of his scores. But so I wouldn't say it's bad, and it's not out of place. It's just it's not the best spaghetti western score that I've heard, and it does have its moments where it's.
I would say it does have good guitar stings.
Yeah.
That's what it does have. Like, it does have a lot of really good like guitar stings, like Yeah,
it does have like those sort of droning moments where it's just. So it's not a bad score, but I think it's just not. It's just very standard for spaghetti western.
How'd you like the Django theme?
Django. It's not that again. That's not out of place. It's very, very common to just whisper the names of your Italian characters.
Django.
It's kind of funny though because a lot of times those types of scores, thinking of like even like coffee, like those types of scores where the name is like very or Shaft, That's
How dare you compare this to Shaq?
No, I'm just saying those types of themes where they sing the name of the main character, they tend to recur throughout the movie, and Django's does not. Like, it's literally just that opening sequence of Django, and then the end of the film.
Django.
Did you forget? It's a Django film.
That's it.
So it is interesting that it doesn't tend to recur throughout the movie. It's just that one moment.
I was just thinking in my head, like, imagine if it was like Tim the Bastard. Tim.
Yeah, you know, the one syllable you don't really get as much emphasis on. Tim. Yeah, no. Sounds better with Django.
I say just like something generic. Like, because everyone in this film, like I said, has generic white people in there, like Brett, Ron, Williams.
I mean, that's part of the Italian dub, to be honest with you. I think, or the English dub. That is on the Synapse Blu-ray.
Well, the same thing too. The way they say Murdoch, it just makes me think of like they're saying Murdoch. Like, I don't see no Danny Glover in this film. You should, when he's sitting there drinking his bourbon, he should have been like, "I'm too old for this shit." You know? Murdoch, too old for Django to be chasing me.
One other thing that I had that I wanted to bring up is, what did you think of Anthony Steffen's Clint Eastwood / Franco Nero impression?
Awful.
And the funny thing is, like, this is not his first time playing Django, and it's also, he would go on to do Django quite a bit in other films.
He'd do other spaghetti westerns, and Chalos, and
Polizia Teskis.
Yeah. But no, I don't know how he is in other films, but he is a fucking bored in this. Like an absolute.
I mean, I think part of it is like an intentional thing. He's trying to be like.
Well, I understand Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood, especially in those films, isn't the most charismatic person. I get that, but Clint Eastwood, the way he looks, his demeanor, it all carries a certain charisma with it. So, like, his stoicism and woodenness is enjoyable.
Or like, and also like his just his expressions and the way in his mannerisms. So like, just the
way he holds, like, the way he like smokes. The way he kind of like holds his gun and stuff. Like sometimes like Django's like kind of limp wristed holding his gun, like he was swinging it about. When they do like those POV shots, like the way he's like holding his gun is very like kind of like not holding. And
I like how like he has that same sort of poncho swing too from Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, but his whole getup just looks fucking cheap and chintzy and shit.
Yeah,
maybe if he was wearing like what Clint was in those like in all his films, he'd look a lot better because his poncho and his hat don't his gun belt and all of that don't look fucking cheap. Here, like I said, and then it's not just him. Everyone's outfit in this looks like cheap, chintzy shit. Their gun belts all look like they were taken from a Toys R Us rack with, a cap gun and shit. They all look like the most generic, bland. Like I said, there's assholes wearing pink Union suits out there. It's just like, it kind of looks weird.
I do also like that Django. We get to see him when he's not the stoic Django. You get to see him when he's just a Confederate soldier, super excited about whiskey. He's like, "Oh, you got some whiskey!"
And he's got a fucking British privateer, like maritime.
It's completely different from his Django.
Jolly good. We should give. What you're right. We should give the whiskey to the officers. We sure work hard for our officers. Yip, chip, chip.
It's great. It's because it's like totally at odds with Django, the stoic gunfighter.
Well, after he got betrayed, 13 years he was working on it. I was like, I'm not gonna be going chip, chip, cheerio anymore. Yeah. Yankee Doodle, motherfucker.
Yeah. I do like that we see that, though, because, like, in Man with No Name, you don't really see Clint Eastwood as anything else.
Because you have other people kind of there to be foiled, especially like in The Good and the Bad, the Ugly. Eli Wallach is what carries, like, the humor and all that. And then with A Few Dollars More, Lee Van Cleef is playing off of him. I know he's also in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, but he's the villain in that. Yeah. But A Few Dollars More, he's playing off of Clint Eastwood as a team. So, I
mean, at least you do get to see Django here, a little different character. I wouldn't say he's good, but it's different from Django, the stoic guy who just shows up as a supernatural, ghostly guy. So, Anything else that you want to bring up about Django the Bastard?
He's got a great diving shot.
There is a good diving shot in here.
Not a day of anger roll, but it's,
Yeah, you've got that, the moment in here where he's... Basically, also, we should note that Django seems to have, like, sixth sense powers because he always fucking knows where literally everyone is.
Well, he never misses a shot either.
It's true.
Yeah.
But he dives out of the way of a guy that's going to shoot him above him. He already knew he was there above him.
Yeah, which is funny because every fucking thing in this film's got some random sound effect. But a guy walking on wooden boards, a wooden balcony above him, nothing until he creeps over the rail, goes and side saddles it to,
Yeah.
Which is pointless because if Django walks out, he could have just, leaned over the balcony. He didn't have to hop over this railing to, side straddle it, then shoot him.
I don't know. I don't have an explanation for that.
I know, but it's just like, fucking God.
Yep. All right.
Same thing too with the guy when the whole the bandits and the hired guns and Murdoch's men, the bandits like, we're leaving, fuck this, and the one guy after the guy gets shot hops on his horse and then shoots the guy. So just
yeah,
it was just the most.
That's right. Yeah, that no common sense in that one.
No, it was just, and everyone just was watching him like it was like a turn-based RPG. Like, no, he can't attack until he gets on his horse, and then he uses his attack, and then you can attack back. It's just fucking stupid.
All right, so we got to give it a rating. Out of 10 center-shaved mustaches, what would you give Django the Bastard?
Which, by the way, I want to know. I want to know if that was an actual thing or just something that came about in the westerns.
Where they would shave the center?
Yeah, and then just have, the side stash.
I don't know. Some people probably can't grow in the center.
No, I know, but it's just I want to know. I don't believe that was an actual style.
I'm thinking that guy...
And they just, kind of pop... He's like, you know what? That would make the guy look menacing,
Thinking that guy was in a freak dynamite accident? Dynamite doesn't kill you in Django the Bastard, but it does blow off your hair.
Well, back then, it was the Wild West, especially in capitalism back then, and with patents and everything, so they probably had, laudanum or something in shaving cream, and it's just like, you know what, after rubbing it on, he just couldn't grow hair there anymore. Just killed off his hair cells. So.
Yep.
So what would you give the rating?
I would give this probably a 6, I would say.
No, I meant more because I always go first on the rating.
Yeah,
I meant more the rating system. How are we rating it out of 10? What?
I told you.
Oh,
center shaved mustaches.
Oh, I must have.
Yeah, you missed that one. That's why I brought it up.
Oh.
So yeah, out of 10 center shaved mustaches, what would you give Django the Bastard?
Well, you can go first.
Okay, so I'll go.
You said you already gave.
I already gave my rating.
Yeah.
I would probably give.
You fucked the whole thing up.
No, you did because you misunderstood what I said. I would give it 6 center shaved mustaches. Django the Bastard is, I think, a really, really mediocre spaghetti western. It's not on the scale of the worst films that I've seen. It is one of the more boring spaghetti westerns that I've ever seen. I can probably think of one, maybe. Sometimes I think Two Mules for Sister Sarah was a little bit more boring than this one.
How dare you?
Yeah, but
that had the fucking braying and the theme.
Yeah, I know.
For the donkey.
But I think that this is really a very mediocre spaghetti western that, though a lot of critics tend to think that this was some sort of inspiration, I really just think it was a copycat of a lot of other spaghetti westerns that came before it. And I'm really surprised that no one mentions that it's very close to a lot of Clint Eastwood films. Instead of inspiring Clint Eastwood films, I would say that it was probably taking a lot from Clint Eastwood films and the original Django. It's not it doesn't have a great plot. It's a very, very generic plot with a revenge twist to it you can pretty much see coming. And I would say that throughout most of it, there is really no interesting story to follow. So you're relying on Anthony Steffen being a really good protagonist as Django, and he does an all right job, but he's not very, pronounced or anything like that. He doesn't have the characteristics or mannerisms that Clint Eastwood has or Franco Nero has, so that it doesn't really, he's not able to lead the film. and you're basically left with a few action sequences that are somewhat interesting and also more so funny than anything. So yeah, I would give it a 6, and I would say that it's just a really generic, mediocre spaghetti western film. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody who and say, like, you should really see this spaghetti western. There's a lot better out there.
I would probably give it a 5.5. Borderline 5. But I'll give it a 5.5 because the one saving grace for this film is the whole cross gimmick. Even though it's not used as often as it should have been, Django should have been going through a lot more men and using that gimmick. That's what, like, for me, is like the best. That was a really cool idea.
I think that is its best idea.
That's really good, totally badass. If like Clint Eastwood was doing that, or Franco, Nero, or Lee Van Cleef, would have been like, oh, that's fucking great, awesome. I think this movie's a slog to watch. It's terribly long for such a simple recycled idea. As I was telling you when I asked about the whole copyright thing, this is the Italians or the Chinese of filmmaking. It's a ripoff of a ripoff of a ripoff of a ripoff. It's a ripoff of the Man with No Name trilogy, which is a ripoff of the Yojimbo, which is inspired by American film, and on you go.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to this point of that thinking, they're not doing enough creative and interesting to make it unique. What makes a few dollars more a great rip-off remake of Yojimbo is that they set it in the West. And you got Sergio Leone's touches, directing to make it an interesting film. You got Clint Eastwood in there to make it an interesting film.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's only like 88 minutes long.
Yeah.
As Sergio Leone becomes a better director, by the time you get to Once Upon a Time in the West, it's almost a 3-hour film, but he's mastered how to keep things paced, interesting, and has all the setting and story to go with it that make it great. Here, it's just like the most basic, bland, uninspired, one of the most uninspired spaghetti westerns I've seen. I think if it was cut down, it'd be a lot more interesting. Like I said, if it was like 80 minutes, it would be a enjoyable, much more enjoyable film. The action's very generic. It's very cliched and over the top. Hammy when guys get shot. The score is like a blunderbuss. It's totally scattershot. There are good moments, but they're also low. Like I said, the guitar stings are really good. The Django theme is kind of just funny, just because Django. But overall, I would not recommend this at all as a film. Like I said, I haven't seen the original Django, so I can't compare how that is as a film. But after seeing a shit ton of Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef spaghetti westerns, this is we took it and made it on a very low budget.
Yeah.
So I can't recommend. Honestly, like something like God's Gun, when I think of, which was awful to watch too.
Yeah. That's
the least interesting because it's got Lee Van Cleef in it.
Yeah, that's true.
That, and because that's like all those spaghetti westerns we've done on here they've all been revenge tales.
Yeah.
Man, Pride and Vengeance.
Yep.
Death Rides a Horror, State of Anger. They've all revenge tales. But I think it just it all depends on the direction, the story, pace, actors. Just like all films do. But this one, like I said, and the fact that you said someone it's like Gothic horror. Stop, you're reaching.
Yeah, that's really a reach.
That's like a Pitchfork review.
Oh,
oh, it's so niche. We're gonna bump this up and praise it because no one else is.
Yeah, I think that's really a stretch with the Gothic horror thing. I don't see it at all. All right, yeah. So that's it for this film. And what do we want to do for the next episode? Do we have that blocked out yet?
We don't.
Let's see. So in 2 weeks, where are we going to be at? So we would be around
21st.
Yeah, the 21st when we record. So anything coming out on the 21st? Or, well, I guess it would have to be the 16th because...
I don't think anything until it in September.
Yeah, I think we're good for a couple more weeks here. So I don't know, maybe we'll do Black Shampoo next week. Or the next episode. Get a blaxploitation film in here. Something like that, yeah.
I don't know, we'll see.
So we'll figure it out.
I have an idea, but I'd have to find a way to get the movie.
I could probably find it if you...
You can't find it online.
No?
The DVD's available, but I have to have you get it on Amazon.
I'll have to check.
I'll buy it, but you'd have to get it on Amazon because you got Prime, so you get that 1-day shipping.
True. Yeah. All right, so in 2 weeks we'll be back with a new episode. But in the meantime, you can check out all of our old episodes on any podcasting app that you can think of. We're on Podbean, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anything. You can find us on there. Leave us a nice review. Subscribe to us. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. On Twitter at bloodandblackrum. We have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. And you can donate to us on our Patreon at patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. It helps keep our podcast going. So thanks for anything that you can donate. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode. So hopefully we'll see you back then.
Take care.